Hey Rebels, welcome to another episode of Dial a Rebel, where we talk to experts in different fields and answer questions brought in by you. Today I'm here with the amazing Rebel girl, Molly Yeh, to get some advice in the kitchen.
Hi, Darcy. It's so nice to meet you. I can't wait to talk about baking and cooking.
Molly is an award-winning cookbook author and a Food Network star. She moved from New York City to a sugar beet farm where she lives and films her show, Girl Meets Farm. Molly is a master of making the most delicious treats that blend her Chinese and Jewish heritage with Midwestern charm. Molly, we have some fantastic questions for you from our very own girl testers for the Rebel Girls Make Dessert Cookbook, which you were a part of. I was so excited to see your recipe in there, and I know the girls are eager to hear from you today. You're never too young to start learning in the kitchen, so let's dive in. To kick us off, will you tell us the first recipe you ever made?
I vividly remember the first recipe that I ever made that I learned that I could feel confident making on my own was macaroni and cheese. That was the first recipe that I felt like I could add my own spin on. Once I had the mechanics of how to make a basic macaroni and cheese recipe, I realized that I could add different cheeses and make a smoked Gouda mac and cheese and pair it with different meats. Like I could chop bacon and throw that in there. I could add some sausage or tomatoes or everything bagel seasoning. Suddenly, knowing that equation of how to make a basic mac and cheese opened this whole world of how I could create my own versions of mac and cheese by switching up the cheeses and the other ingredients and the pasta shapes. And that was a really cool feeling.
Wow, that sounds delicious. The first thing I ever tried to make was sugar cookies with my grandma, and it was so fun, but a little bit chaotic. Okay, our first question comes from sisters Ella and Autumn from Massachusetts. Hey Molly, how do you know if ingredient flavors will taste good together?
I love this question, and one thing that I think about frequently when I think about ingredient flavors is how opposites attract. Opposites attract in so many things in life, and flavors and ingredients are included. If you have something a little bit salty and savory like a peanut butter, you think about what's a great match to peanut butter is jelly. It's sweet and sometimes a little bit sour. And so those ingredients truly attract. And then I also like to think about how different ingredients can enhance one another in very subtle ways. A classic example of this would be espresso or coffee enhancing the flavor of chocolate. If you're making a chocolate cake and you use freshly brewed coffee as the liquid in it, or a little pinch of espresso, that will make the cake not taste like coffee, but the dark bitter notes in the coffee will enhance that flavor of the chocolate. So these ingredient pairings come with a lot of experimentation and a lot of experience, and you'll learn them the more you bake and the more you cook.
Okay, you're making my mouth water. It all sounds so delicious, and fun to remember that opposites attract. Next, we have Lux from Vermont. She asks, Hey Molly, I'm wondering if you had a single baking tip that you would tell a new baker.
You should start with one recipe. To tell yourself that you're going to become an expert in one recipe that you're really excited about. And, it could be, maybe it's chocolate chip cookies. Bake your chocolate chip cookie recipe once, and then bake it again, and then bake it another time, and notice little things that make a difference, and really get to know one single recipe and the mechanics of that all, and how to really cream your butter and your sugar properly. And that can truly teach you a lot about baking as a whole.
That's so smart. Become an expert in one recipe? I think I'd like to master all the recipes for Thanksgiving dinner. Now here's Savannah from Virginia. She wants to know, what about baking in different seasons? Does the time of year or weather change how you bake?
I love this question, Savannah, because it is something that isn't always addressed in a recipe when you're reading it. But you are absolutely right that the different seasons and different weather can affect your results in baking. Some examples of this are that certain cookies, certain very dainty baked goods, especially like very dry baked goods, can be adversely affected by the humidity in the summer. And the opposite of that is pie crust. When you're making pie crust, you want it to be cold. You want to be wearing a sweater. You want there to be a little bit of a draft, because if your pie crust heats up too much, first of all, it'll be really difficult to work with. And also it'll have sort of a gummy texture that's just not the optimal flaky texture that you ultimately want a pie crust to have. And then when you get into thinking about yeasted breads and yeasted doughs, even the slight variation in temperature, if it's a few degrees warmer than you would typically have it in your kitchen, that can actually be really helpful for getting yeasted doughs to rise faster and get them super puffy and fluffy. So yes, there is a lot of variation in how weather and temperature can affect your baked goods.
Whoa, I had no idea humidity could affect baking. It really shows how baking connects us to the world and the seasons around us. Our next question is from Zoe from North Carolina, who asks, what if you put in the wrong ingredient by accident? Like one time I put in 3 tablespoons of vanilla extract instead of 3 teaspoons of almond extract. Should I start over?
This is a tough one because a lot of the times it can be solved with a creative solution. So for example, if you have accidentally tripled the amount of vanilla in something, you could do something as crazy as just triple the remaining ingredients and make 3 cakes and then freeze 2 of them. Some ingredients are forgiving. So if you have doubled the amount of salt, a lot of times it might be okay. Sometimes an extra salty chocolate chip cookie is really good. If it's too salty for your taste buds, add a scoop of vanilla ice cream. Add more sugar to balance out the salt. There are different things that can be done to save something. When it comes to baking soda or baking powder, that can ruin the end result. It can actually make a cake explode in the oven. So I would probably start over. Or I would, if you're mixing up the dry ingredients and you're able to and if you accidentally doubled the baking soda, you can double the rest of the dry ingredients and then just add half of the dry ingredients to your cake batter and then save the other half of the dry ingredients for another day when you're baking, and now you have the dry ingredients all mixed up. 3 times the amount of vanilla. It might be really tasty.
Okay, so sometimes it's a little bit of science in the kitchen, and other times it's a little bit of creative experimentation. Honestly, vanilla explosion cake sounds pretty amazing to me. Molly, thank you for helping us feel confident about experimenting, making mistakes, and having fun in the kitchen. These were all helpful tips.
Thanks for having me, Darcy. I had so much fun today.
Seems like the kitchen is the perfect place to be curious and creative. Keep trying things, and most importantly, keep having fun with your food adventures. You never know what you might cook up. See you next time, and stay Rebel.